This week on Focus on Photography, my man Wools is back in town with me, and we have an outstanding guest, Miss Lisa Carney. We're going to talk a little bit about Olympus, we're going to talk about the Twitterverse, and we're just going to talk about general inspiration in the world of creativity. Check it out.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Focus on Photography, Episode 7, recorded on December 12th, 2019, Feartography. This episode of Focus on Photography is brought to you by Masterclass, online classes taught by the world's greatest minds. For a limited time, when you buy one annual Masterclass all-access pass for yourself, you get another one to gift for free. Go to masterclass.com/focus to get started with this limited time offer. Hey folks, I'm Pruitt. This is Focus on Photography here on twit.tv. Hope y'all are doing well. I'm unbelievable as always. And man, I'm bright-eyed and bushy-tailed on this fine Thursday morning at 9 a.m. Pacific time. But boy, I have good reason because I got the one guy that ditched me last week for a client here.
Oh, well.
My man, Michael Woolsey is in the house. How you doing, brother?
Good.
Good to see you.
Good seeing you.
Good to see you. I'm glad you're here this week. And also, oh man, I am so starstruck. If you're watching the live stream, you see on the screen behind us, Miss Lisa Carney is joining us this week on Focus on Photography. How you doing, lady?
I'm good, darling. I'm really good. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, I'm so starstruck right now. And I will try my best to control my fandom and just carry on with this show as usual. For the folks that are joining us for the first time here on Focus on Photography, this is a show where we like to get together and talk about the different news, rumors, tips, tricks around the world of photography and videography, and just sort of help you get started on things and share a little bit of the insight, if you will, from people that are out in the field doing this work. Because a lot of people just assume photographers like myself and my man Wools, we just pick up the camera and just hit click and then just post it. No, it's more to it than that. It's a lot. So. It's a lot more work. We like to share a little bit of that insight as working photographers in our day-to-day. But again, yeah, there's always some type of news and rumors out there. So we'll go through that stuff and see how we can relate it to you as a listener and just chat amongst ourselves. And then when we're fortunate enough to have outstanding guests like Miss Carney here, we'd like to pick their brains too. Not going to be an interview, if you will, but hopefully she's going to have some fun with us and share some of her experiences with us. Does that sound good, everybody?
Sounds good to me. I'm totally excited.
All right. So let's go ahead and get into some of these here stories in our rundown. First and foremost, we talked about last week, or maybe it was the week before, Lightroom put in a nice little update. Well, not Lightroom. Adobe put in a nice update for Lightroom Mobile that allows you to go ahead and run an import from an SD card, because apparently that really ticked people off that they couldn't do that. I never paid much of attention to it, but hey, it's there now, so you can do it, Wools, whenever you're ready.
There you go. I will get on it tomorrow.
I installed it, but I will never use this feature because it's just not my flow. I'm still trying to get used to the mobile editing workflow. The last 2 weeks, I made a conscious effort of editing mobile only for a couple of my images, including the new ding, ding, ding Photoshop for iPad. I know Miss Lisa probably has some thoughts on that app, right?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Oh, that look on her face says she's got a story to tell.
Well, yeah.
How slow can it be?
Well, and change is difficult, you know, but changes are coming. And
well, the thing is, they were, Adobe as in they, were quite open about, hey, our app is released, but we still have a good ways to go on making it what, you know, people like Miss Lisa is used to on a day-to-day basis. And that bugged me a little bit because I also have Affinity installed on my iPad. And so I started doing a comparison between the two. And man, Affinity is way ahead. So
telling me what Affinity is?
Affinity is another suite of creative apps from Serif, I believe that's the company. And they offer Affinity Photo. They offer Affinity Design, I believe, which is similar to Adobe's InDesign. And there's one more thing. I can't remember what it's called. But I use the photo package. I have it on the desktop computer, barely use it. But I said I want to try it more on the iPad. And it's really, really nice. You know, there's some things that I think could be better, but it's definitely ahead of what Adobe's offering as far as Photoshop right now.
Is it the logic's the same as Adobe? Okay.
Even down to the keyboard shortcuts. What's that, Miss Lisa?
I'm sorry. One of the things I was going to say is, and you might not be old enough to remember these days, but back when Nikon was king of the hill, and then Canon came up there piney and up the game because they had so much R&D money, and they really took over for a while there. And I'm thinking early 90s. With Affinity, it's going to push Photoshop to get better and better. And so I think it's a really healthy
competition is always good for the consumers, right?
I believe so, yeah.
I don't care what it is, whether it's your camera manufacturers, your apps, heck, even your cable TV services, whatever.
Exactly.
Competition is
or your retouchers, or your photographers.
Right. But that news just, like I said, it leaked a couple of weeks ago, and now it's finally out, and yay, everybody's excited. I'm sarcastic right now, right?
Confetti, yes.
Now,
well, I can tell you, Ann, if you don't mind me butting in for a minute,
please do.
Think, I'm a retoucher finisher, and I work on really big, high-end images, and I know full well in my heart that mobile retouching is the way it's going to be going. I can go kicking and screaming as long as I want. It's coming. It's just like when Photoshop came out or digital first came out. Everyone said, "Oh, it's never going to take over film." And look at us now.
Right.
Well, all right. So let me ask you this straight up. Would you prefer to use your iPad if the capability was up to snuff to what's offered on your MacBook Pro? Would you prefer to use your iPad?
All right. I'm going to say something, and I don't mean this insulting. I don't think it's a matter of preference.
Okay.
I think it's what's coming.
Okay.
Really?
It doesn't matter what I prefer. It's coming.
Adobe scared me a couple of years ago when they launched Lightroom CC, and on the same day, you remember this at Adobe Max.
Yep.
They announced Lightroom CC, and then within the next breath, they said Lightroom Classic.
Yep.
So everybody, including myself, started freaking out because I love the old school Lightroom because I use it as a digital asset manager. It's not just a photo editor, but it's a way for me to keep up with things.
Right.
And when they said classic, all I could think about was, oh crap, we're about to lose this app. So you feel that's pretty much how it's going to be going forward is, probably within the next maybe 5 years or so?
I don't want to say that I think laptops will go away or desktop units. But yeah, I think the reality of time constraints and when you're doing shoots and clients and needing to deliver files, it's going to be mobile. We'll be sitting. Any morning I go on photo shoots now, and I'll be doing retouching on set because they don't have time to wait. They need to make sure they got the set shot everything in, and right now like a system, big monitor, big box, everything. And soon we'll be on iPads, and I'll be airdropping, and I'll be sending it. And I think it's coming. I don't think it's going to mean that there's not going to be laptops because there's still cameras. Right. But I think the way production is going, it's
kind of
freight
exciting,
train is coming. Yeah, and it's just and I'm an old school girl, man. I've been doing this for since horse and buggy days, as I like to say, and. It is exciting. Things are changing, and there's no point in fighting it. It's coming.
Right. Yeah. So it's like that 512, the Mac 512. Now it's to this point where you're trying to do things before, but now it's. I'm talking old school.
Clearly.
Way back. Yeah. Way back.
The Mac Lisa. Do you remember the first Mac?
I remember the Lisa.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Or the Quadras or all those. Yeah. It's just, and I have to tell you, I don't like using Cintiqs. I don't like using iPads for my retouching because I don't like the pen being in my way. Oh. But it doesn't matter what I like.
Right.
I have to stuff. So now I practice. I have personal projects I work on my Cintiq. I don't do my pro jobs on it yet because I'm not quite comfortable. Right. But I surrender. It's coming.
So you like the Intuos a little more so versus the Cintiq because you can still see your display?
100%.
Right.
Yeah, and I work this way. I look forward.
Right.
And my hand, and I like that. I'm not used to looking. It hurts my neck when I look down.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't invested in the big Cintiq that you use, that,
Right.
The big, giant, expensive one.
Right.
But I'm gonna have to. It's on my budget for next year.
I have a question for you. So I have to get a new laptop, but I'm wondering, would it be better to get like a iPad versus a laptop? I only use a laptop for editing if I have to do editing or a mail and whatnot. But I'm just
That's
wondering.
Tough one, dude.
That's a really interesting question. I don't know your workflow. I don't know what you do, so it's a little hard to answer. But I would say if I had to buy a new device, I would get an iPad Pro.
The Pro, yeah, more horsepower on that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Now I have a. It's funny you mentioned the Cintiq versus the Intuos. I have a Cintiq as well, and the first thing you said for us, the looking down like that is not ergonomically sound, but apparently people make it work for them. The only time I will truly just sort of dive in with the Cintiq is if I'm doing headshots, because I can sort of be a little more immersive with it. But outside of that, no, let me have my Intuos and put it up on the screen. And it's a lot easier workflow for me. You've ever used a Wacom tablet?
I have not. Tools? No, it sounds. I know I'm going to go that direction though. But right now I'm just monitors and keyboard. But
I would say though, if you were going to go into a tablet at this point, I would say do the Cintiq or the iPad Pro and use it as, you can actually use an iPad as a virtual Cintiq for your laptop.
Right. Yeah.
There's a program you can use for that, and because it's the way it's going. So instead of going backwards and using technology that's going to phase out
eventually,
right.
Eventually.
Well, it's exciting, and it really is.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be, and it's a little bit more.
I'm kicking and screaming. I don't want to use that damn thing. I want to do the work the way I used to do my work, but that's the way it is.
Yeah, it's the way it's going.
And that's another point of it. We have people like you that are seasoned veterans that have done such amazing work, and we'll get into that a little later on, but have done such amazing work. No, I've learned my lesson on that.
Yes, son. Yes.
But you've done so much amazing work with the tools that we have at hand, but yet the masses are trying to assume that those tools are antiquated and not good enough, and we should move this way because that's the future. And I'm like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Now maybe enhance it, but that's just
welcome
me.
to the world of commerce. It's going, honey.
Yeah.
It's the way it is.
That's just me. Yeah.
And you got to remember too, hon, the folks coming up, the kids, my kid is used to a touch screen. He's used to hand controlling. Well, I am not. He is. And that's who they're marketing to. That's where it's going to be those folks.
That makes sense. That gives you a different perspective there. I never really thought about it as far as like, what are the generation used to right now? What are they used to? So we have to sort of prepare this generation for the future, because they're the ones that's going to be buying the stuff, not me.
I mean, they grew up on these things.
Right.
Didn't exist when I was growing up. So I had a cord, phone. Just like with the Wacom or the Intuos, you have a cord.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Dang, you just gave me an interesting perspective. I'm going to have to pick my kids' brains now, because I'm curious to see what they think on this stuff. Because one of my boys, he's an aspiring photographer. The other one is totally indifferent about anything other than girls or whatever. But I'm curious to pick the boy's brain about his edit flow, because now I've sort of trained him up on using the edit bay at home.
Right.
And I've tried to show him Snapseed and things like that on mobile, and he loves that. But I'm wondering, like, what is he thinking? Because everything else he does is swipe, swipe, swipe.
Yeah.
Tap.
Yeah.
My son.
And I'm going to tell you, I use all Lightroom Mobile for my photo editing now.
Oh, wow.
And now I'm clunky when I go on the box. I'm so used to the mobile, and now I go to and I'm like, oh God, how do you do that again?
The new tricks.
Wow. Okay. Good to know. Good to know.
New tricks. All right, so let's move on. We got another story about Olympus. Man, these people, they would not stay off our show either. Notice that? Because we talked about them a couple weeks ago. And potentially shutting down different divisions and things of that nature. And of course, according to Petapixel, they're going all in on the micro four thirds format for cameras. They're just going to just say, hey, we're going to own up to it. This is going to be the way to go for our consumers buying cameras henceforth and forevermore. You have thoughts on that, Wools? Because
I don't have too much thoughts on it.
I thought it was fascinating, and some of the points that was made was the average Joe, they could care less about full frame cameras.
Oh, full frame. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, they're going in micro four thirds because the average consumer tends to care less about full frame.
That's interesting.
Yeah, well, think about it. If you go out to let's just go down the street in downtown Petaluma and ask someone if they want to buy a camera, and they say yeah, and then you ask them what kind of camera they want and give them a couple options. They're not going to care about this one having full frame and 30 megapixels. They want to make sure this thing feels right in their hands. They could put it in their pocket, put it in their purse, put it in their backpack pretty easily. Great for the vacation, and that makes sense. It's a certain niche of people that are looking for different specs,
right?
Well, hey, good on you, Olympus, for owning up to it.
And finding their niche.
And don't get me wrong, it's not like Olympus is hurting because they have a whole bunch of different properties that they can take care of and make money off of. They've been around for what we say 100 years. They're not going anywhere.
Well, you never know. Kodak was around for a long time too, but.
Oh yeah, they're slowly coming back though, right?
Limping.
Yeah. That's great.
True.
Sorry, visual aids there.
No. Well, I've always been a full frame person. Like Nikon's high eye point was the big thing way back when. So I've never had a camera that was not full frame.
See, I actually have a Rebel camera that I still use. It's my little baby. I love that tiny little camera. APS-C, but I'm happy with it. It still produces.
Yeah,
and I could hand it to anybody else out there that just needs a camera, and they will be totally happy with it.
Yeah,
So I get it. It's not all about the big specs.
Right. What you guys talked about last week.
Right. Most people aren't really buying into all of that stuff anymore. Hopefully, that's the case. All right. So moving right along, I want to tug at a little bit of your heartstrings. Losing interest in photography. This is again on Petapixel, and this hit me in the heart a little bit because I have people in my DMs on Instagram or Twitter or what have you, and they're always saying, "Ant, I want to be a photographer, but I'm just not feeling it anymore." And I'm like, well, do you really want to be? And then when they respond to that, they tend to say it's because of lack of inspiration or just lack of traction. Because a lot of people, they're assuming that you can go in and just start being Instagram famous and things of that nature. And I try to tell them, if you're losing interest in it, it's fine. Just put it down. Nowadays, mental health awareness is finally starting to get a little more, I guess you can say, good, positive light. And I try to tell people, don't put yourself in a mental health issue being stressed out about your photography. And then I also feel that can go for any craft, any art. That can go for graphic designers. That can go for finishers and retouchers. If you're not feeling it, put it down. Just put it down. You have any thoughts on that? I'm glad someone on the internet brought this up and shed some positive light on it and said, hey, look, it's okay.
Right.
You can walk away from it.
I had a situation where my camera was stolen, and this is in San Francisco, and I got it back, and but I did not get it fixed. The person chased the person down the street, and he dropped the camera and basically destroyed it. But I did not photograph for a year. I just did not want to photograph for some reason. I knew it was just a cycle. I knew it was just more of my headspace, and that it was going to be okay. will always be a storyteller. And fortunately enough, I was actually working in a Vision Gallery, which was in San Francisco, Mission. And so my inspiration was working with other photographs and being a registrar there. But it wasn't until a friend and I went to Zuni Cafe, if anybody knows in San Francisco, Zuni Cafe, and had breakfast. And he goes, I told him about what was going on. He said, just get it fixed. Just get it fixed.
Just that simple.
Well, no, but I look at him. His name is Rick Chapman. He actually lives up where you are in Lake Tahoe. Amazing photographer. I mean, super wonderful photographer and super nice human being. Anyways, and I said, he said, just take it in. I know a person you could take it into. And so I did, and never left my camera at home again. And I always carried my camera with me all the time.
So it just sort of recharged you after you
It did, and I think sometimes you just need the right inspiration and the right, just the right nudge. But
I would say kicking it in the butt, but
right.
That's just me.
No, and we do have cycles though, and we all have creative cycles, and it's important to pay attention to that. I don't think you should push it.
Right.
If you're not feeling it, just know that it's just it'll come back.
Okay.
I don't know.
And you may end up, like you said, coming back to it.
Right. And I never knew, I gotta say, I didn't think I was going to go away from it. I just knew that it's just a cycle at that time. I don't know. What do you think, Lisa?
What do you think?
I have a lot of thoughts on this, and I have a couple stories to tell you. So first of all, my training, I'm a retoucher, and I do not make my living as a photographer now. However, I went to school for photography. I have a degree from Art Center in Pasadena. It's a pretty prestigious school.
Amazing school.
Yeah, it's pretty great. And when I first started out, one of the things I realized, I was an editorial portrait shooter, and I shot people the way they felt, not necessarily the way they wanted to be portrayed. And I really had a crisis because it's my art. It is my love, photography, 100%. And I thought, oh my God, how am I going to make a living compromising my vision? So what I ended up choosing was going into retouching. So retouching movie posters and TV posters. You want her hair blue, you want her pants green, you want a different sunset. It is no skin off me. Happy to service whatever you need.
Right.
And I shoot every single day of my life. I do my photography, only I don't do my photography for my income.
Right.
I do it for my love. So that's
it.
And an alternative is you can shift your focus. There's lots of careers within the arts, working in galleries, being a retoucher, if you're not feeling it.
Right.
Then on the creative cycle, I think we don't recognize that we need nourishment and a time for introspection and a time to cultivate a vision. And then you go out and produce.
Right.
So I shoot every day just as an exercise. Like some people do yoga. I shoot every day. Some of it's fine.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
That's good though. That's good.
That's part of the process though.
Exactly. Right. And last year I went through a huge life transition. I broke up with a partner. We'd been together a long time. We had a business together. And I went through this trauma. And I started a series of artwork on grief and loss. And it's been amazing. I mean, it's been an amazing process. And now I'm moving into the gratitude series from it. And it comes when it comes. Like Aunt says, you can't push it.
Yeah.
And now I can't stop. I mean, I'm doing this stuff daily.
I love that.
Daily.
That's so great. That is so
you got to
wonderful.
give yourself some space.
And the thing is that's the kind of stuff that I wanted our listeners to hear, because it happens to everybody.
It does. 100%. Absolutely. and be patient with it. I mean, you just got to be patient and like you said, Lisa, take a risk and maybe do something different. Add to your portfolio perhaps. But I think the creative expression comes in multiple ways, and we should try to push the envelope sometimes.
Let me ask you folks this, and this again goes for any creative endeavor. I had a time where I was in a creative rut, and I ended up just sort of forcing myself with challenges each day. What do you guys feel about that? Because for me, it sort of kickstarted something. I did I think it was a 30-day photo challenge.
Right.
And I held myself accountable by saying, okay, I'm going to do a 30-day photo challenge, and I'm going to have to publish it.
Okay.
Regardless of what it looks like.
I think it's great.
That's awesome.
And I've always wondered, what do other photographers or other creatives think about challenges like that when they get into a particular rut? Is it something that could be helpful because you brought the public into it, or are you more of I'm just going to keep this challenge within and just work my way through it?
You know what? Can I jump in for a second?
Yes, please.
I have a couple thoughts about this. First of all, one, I think it is incredibly liberating to give yourself something like that. Because, so for example, if you're an editorial portrait shooter and you're like, I'm going to shoot landscapes for 30 days, or I'm going to shoot product for 30 days, or I'm going to do a creative story for 30 days, and you take the reins off, like the judgment, and you just do it, and you post it, good, bad, indifferent, you post it, and you allow yourself that freedom, that's where creativity comes from.
Right.
It's when you're trying to make it perfect and it's got to be good, or it has to be this, or it has to be my brand, or it has to be, has to. It's the death knell of creativity.
Yeah,
I think that's so good.
Michael, you said something earlier, which I think is really important. So you said you're a storyteller.
Yes.
He is.
So maybe the challenge is giving yourself a story to tell.
Right.
Like this grief process that I've been going through, that is the story I've been visually dictating or expressing is my pain. So there was my story. Maybe you have loss, maybe you have fear. Like, what if you did a 30-day challenge on fear? What does fear look like?
Oh.
I mean, it might be dark, but
it's
wouldn't
actually,
that be interesting?
it's abstract thought too sometimes too.
Yeah.
Right? And
Yes.
What is that? What is fear? And how can you put fear into a portrait or whatever?
Yeah.
Oh, good
or
for
death
you.
or
This
loss
is great.
or happiness and not have happiness and not have it be expressed with people.
Right.
What if you did a 30-day challenge of joy, but no people?
But no
How would you
people.
do it?
How
No
do you
people. How would you
define
show joy?
Oh, I think we have a challenge here.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
I think right now.
Every time I
Joy
do
is
this show,
here.
I get
Let's
this little
do a
jolt.
challenge. Let's do a 30-day challenge right now to all people out there and just figure what that is for
And I
ourselves.
say fear. I think that's the biggest thing we are, me, I will own this myself. I, up until this last year, really didn't want to look at the dark side. I didn't want to look at my fear. I didn't want to look at what I was scared about or my shame or my failure. And looking at that straight in the eye was so good. Painful as hell, but really good.
Sounds like it was a cathartic situation.
If you folks aren't following her on Instagram, it's finishing_station on Instagram. And that series on there, it tugs at your heart when you watch it, when you look at it.
Yeah, I was hurting. I was hurting pretty bad. But, I think as creatives, that's how we speak to each other.
Goodness.
Talk about what hurts. And then we're not alone.
I sometimes look at photography as a journal, too. If you're a journal writer, that photography could be that way, too. But it's just not without words.
Yeah.
Well, and see, that makes me go back to your box of 20, which we're going to get to that. But first, we're going to take a few minutes and pause because we have a sponsor for today's show here on Focus on Photography. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Give me a little fist bump there, brother.
Nice.
Thank you,
I'll do a
Connie.
little dance.
Yeah, nice. Love it. And I think you'll like this advertisement.
This is some good stuff. This episode of Focus on Photography is brought to you by Masterclass, folks. Masterclass lets you learn from the best with the exclusive access to online classes taught by masters of their craft with over 70 different instructors across many different categories. All right, so yes, I'm a photographer. I need to get my tips and tricks in pretty much every day because that's the only way I'm going to get better. And Masterclass has all sorts of resources available to me to help me get better at my art. You can learn game design and theory from Will Wright, the art of storytelling from Neil Gaiman, or filmmaking from Werner Herzog, Jodie Foster, or Spike Lee. Yeah, I said big names like that, folks. Lessons range from specifically showing you how to execute and technique to a master's insight about their craft that can be translated across many fields and disciplines, similar to what we've just been talking about. It's not just photography. These things can be applied to all the creative spaces. There's always something more to learn, and it will help expand your horizons. So what exactly is Masterclass? It's an immersive learning experience accessible on your phone, web, or Apple TV. It offers classes on a wide variety of topics and taught by world-class masters at the top of their fields. Each class is broken down into individual video lessons and downloadable materials, all of which users can explore at their own pace. I love the self-directed stuff here.
Yeah.
The All Access Pass membership charged annually gives users unlimited access to over 60 classes and 200 hours of lessons taught by the world's best. Masterclass All Access Pass makes a great holiday gift, and it's an easy way to give a gift that's personal and meaningful to those creatives that are out there in your family and friends. Now, for me, I've been trying out Masterclass. I've been looking at Miss Annie Leibovitz's photography class, and holy cow, folks, the best way I can describe it is it's similar to a documentary / college lecture series, and just flat out inspirational. She's going through the different modules, and it's in bite-sized chunks, so you don't spend 2 hours in it. You could spend 15 minutes. You could spend half an hour. And then she gives you a challenge. She looks you in the eye and say, hey, this is your challenge. If you choose to accept it, I need you to go out and look at this, or I need you to go out and shoot this, and ponder the lessons that she brought up in there. And it's so straightforward. It's beautifully done on Masterclass. I've been watching it on the browser. I don't have an Apple TV, so I've been looking at it on the browser. And I tell you, it will fire you up from a creative artist standpoint. So go ahead and check them out. So for a limited time, when you buy an annual Masterclass All Access Pass for yourself, you'll get one to gift for free. So go to masterclass.com/focus to get started with this limited time offer, folks. Buy one All Access Pass and get one free to gift at masterclass.com/focus. We thank Masterclass for their support. Y'all take care with that now. That's good stuff.
I want to tell you, I don't know if you got to the section in her class, but it was awe-inspiring where she said, talked about how she thought people often say when you're shooting portraits, you want your subject to be really comfortable. And she's like, no.
Yes.
No, you don't need to make them feel comfortable. That's not the point. And I was like, when she said that, and I mean, I've been doing this a long time. I was like, oh my God, she's right. It's about having them feel.
Right.
And feel isn't necessarily good.
My favorite line out of that class is, it takes years for you to learn how to see.
Right.
Yeah, it's so really true. Good.
And I think about our previous discussion, Wolves talked about the box of 20 back on I think it was episode 1, right?
It was 1.
Our box of 20, where you go back and look at 20 images over your creative career, if you will, and just see that progression. And for me, when I started to do that, I went back and we posted it on the Twit blog, actually. I went back and put some of mine up, and it made me think I saw things differently, and it took a long time for me to start seeing things differently compared to how I saw them 2 years ago. That's just 2 years ago, and I don't see things the same way, So when she said that in that masterclass, it just, whoo, boy, I was fired up.
I have a retouching course I do, and a business retouching course, and I often show my first work. And sweet Mary is so bad. And it's inspiring, I think, to look at that and go, oh my God, I really sucked. There's 30 years. It takes a while.
But we have a living box of 20 through Instagram. So if you go to the very first Instagram post that you did and kind of look all the way through, you kind of start seeing the progression as well.
I did not know about this. I'm going to look this up.
Well, that's the thing. You just look at your Instagram feed. Your Instagram feed is essentially a box of 20.
Yeah, but it's
such a great idea.
Multiple.
I love Wolves for that. That's good stuff, man.
But in regards to masterclass, I would not only do photography. I'd actually look at directing and
videography. They have different classes in there.
Is great, yeah.
And then writers. The writing aspect too.
Aaron Sorkin.
Yes, exactly right. And just kind of look at how people. It's about the creative process. Is I think what I'm trying to talk about.
I started to look up the video aspect of it because a videographer, again, is going to give you a different look. And you can translate that.
Ron Howard has a great idea about how to look at and composition and stuff like that.
I watch movies now and I look at how things are framed.
Yeah, it's so true. And actually how And for me, it's the coloring and the post process.
Yep.
And also, yes, how they shot it and low, high, whatever.
I look at that and I'm thinking, okay, I need to try that on my next photo walk. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so inspiring. All right. Before we dive into all of the business of Miss Lisa, I want to look at one more thing, and that is regarding social media and Twitter. According to Engadget.com, Twitter is now going to allow us photographers and creative artists to upload our images and files in all of its beautiful glory and not going to compress it down to make it look like an 8-bit JPEG on the screen.
I think that's good.
That is outstanding. I don't know about you folks, but there have been so many times I would post something to Instagram or Twitter and just sort of walk away. And I'll come back and just go through my feed and people are replying to me. So I look at the thread of the reply and I look at the image and I'm like, I didn't post that. Look at how, it's all jagged edged and that's not my image, and people are enjoying it, but I'm thinking that's a poor representation of me and the time that I spent for that shoot. So it really just drove me nuts. But I was glad to see that this is allegedly what they're going to do. So hopefully Instagram will
be more inspiring. Post things up there.
I mean, it's not like people can't afford cloud storage out there. Twitter, I know you got money. You could afford some cloud storage and put my whole little 200 kilobyte file on your server. It's not going to hurt anything. You got this. But I thought that was pretty fascinating. All right.
So I have a thought for you if I can jump in for a second.
Please
I had
do.
an interesting discussion with a photographer, a veteran photographer, and we were talking about how social media has made it so that we are less discerning about what we post because there's such a drive to post all the time, every day, and that we're actually not sitting with our pieces long enough and letting them gestate, and then we're just posting everything, and that the visual noise is getting, our own visual noise, forget everyone else, our own visual noise is getting so loud. And I am 100% guilty of this. I will post pieces up that, especially with that grief series, and they're really not done.
Oh.
Like I look at them later, I'm like, crap.
Yeah.
I didn't finish that. But it's because it's, get it out.
I've sometimes posted pieces that I knew, like right here, I knew that I shouldn't, and I did, and then I just take it off right away.
Yep.
Just for the exercise, I guess. I don't know, but
I will openly admit that I've done the same thing because I had to use social media, particularly Instagram and YouTube. I had to use it for marketing standpoint as I was trying to grow my small business back home because that's where people were looking. I tried to direct them to the websites and things of that nature, but that's where people were looking. And my little studies and research showed that you need to be posting fairly consistently so that algorithm will reward you with better, not better eyeballs, but with more eyeballs. And so, I totally fell into that. Yeah. I'm not on that anymore. I don't really give a crap now. I just post it because I love it.
We repost stuff because the other thing about that, aside from posting things when they're not ready, we don't let our pieces breathe and sit there and enjoy them long enough. It's like, because I can remember in photography when I started with film and printing, I would, do my shoot, I would develop my film, I would make my print, spend hours in the darkroom making my print.
And then you love the dark room.
Print, right? And I love the smell.
Oh.
And, sorry.
Weirdo.
If I could give you a virtual hug right now, I would.
Another weirdo has joined us, folks.
Right? But then I put the piece up and live with it for like a month or two, or instead of, I posted today, tomorrow I have to post a new picture. So I've been exploring, what if I repost stuff that I've done? Like I don't have to do a new piece every single day. And what if every 5 days I recycle something because the algorithms and people haven't seen it? I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there as a possibility because I don't give enough reverence to the work. It's like it's thrown away instantly. Like, I did it. Next. Did it. Next.
I'm getting better with that. I'll put it out there just because kind of thing. If anything, I will use Instagram stories more because what I've learned is my audience, they like to see the behind the scenes because it's part of their learning process. And I feel like, okay, if I can help someone just learn something today, let me go ahead and do that. I don't care if it's just heck, using the underrated rotation tool inside of Photoshop.
Right.
You know, anything. And people have gravitated towards that, and I feel good about sharing it, and it's not as all braggadocious as social media tends to be.
Right.
You know, it's just putting the content out there that's hopefully going to help boost somebody else up and get them fired up and going.
Yeah, I have to admit, I haven't used Instagram story very much. Matter of fact, I probably did it maybe 5 times. And it's something maybe I should look into. I don't know.
I struggle with it because first and foremost, when I think of Instagram stories, I think of the selfie culture. And I'm not a selfie person, even though I did post a quote unquote selfie this morning.
Yes, you did. I saw it.
Yeah, that's actually a nice image.
Yeah.
You know, but you know how hard that was?
Us photographers, we like to be behind the scenes.
Right, yeah. But you did very well. So was that a selfie?
Yeah, I just stuck it on the tripod and stood on the spot and
nicely done.
You know?
Nicely done.
But when I think of thank you. But when I think of Instagram stories, I think of the selfie culture, and I'm not a selfie person. But I wanted to again try to take advantage of that platform, and then I just figured out, hey, I have this little mini tripod. I can put the phone right there at the computer, fire it up, talk, do what I need to do, and then send it on up. And people tend to dig that. I've gotten so much feedback about, thank you for sharing that. I had no idea I've been using that wrong, kind of thing. You know, so that's something you could do and put in your flow because, dude, you're talented and people will want to learn from you, dude.
I know.
One more thing for you to learn. There you go.
Jeez, come on, Wools.
I know. Well, I'm kind of behind the game 8-ball on this one.
Yeah, I'm challenging you now.
I'm
challenging you.
30-day challenge.
We have a 30-day challenge that we came up with today, and another.
You're going to be pretty busy.
I'm busy already.
But you got it.
Yeah.
You got this. All right, Miss Lisa Carney. So I did a semi-introduction at the start of the show. My best introduction for Miss Lisa Carney, and boy, I hope this doesn't offend her, but I'm just going to speak it from the heart. If there's a movie that you've loved, if there's a television show that you've loved, and you've seen the artwork, the banner, whether it's on Netflix or going down the 405 because you're sitting in all of that traffic for 2 hours.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure that banner had her fingerprints all over it. And I don't mean that she was just filling it up or anything. I'm saying she created that work. She's done so much amazing artwork for a lot of the TV shows and movies that we enjoy. And it just blows my mind. Now, I know you like print more so than digitals. Is that right? Does that still stand?
Yeah.
So,
but again, it's switching to digital, so there's nothing to do about
it. But
yeah.
But if you guys go out and just go up into Netflix and go look at, I believe you did you do the Stranger Things one?
It was a team effort. That was, I did most of the background stuff. I didn't get to do the front characters. Those were Todd Rublin, who's amazing, absolute amazing artist. But a lot of Hulu, a lot of Amazon. Reprisals out right now from Hulu. Those are pretty fun.
Everything.
Nice.
Yeah. Everywhere.
The boys, the artwork for the boys.
Oh, nice.
That's pretty fun.
Oh, that's cool. Great.
See, as our technical director is applauding you in the background, it's just.
And my boys love that movie, by the way.
Oh, really?
Oh, totally.
I don't let my boy watch that movie.
Okay. They're old enough.
But I wanted to dig into you a little bit because you mentioned you started out with a passion for photography and you still shoot every day. And you talked about doing the fashion shoots, but it wasn't necessarily your thing.
100% not my thing. Yeah.
That
was gutty because you go to school and you think, oh, I'm going to be. I wanted to be a fashion shooter. That's what I went for. Mm-hmm. I loved it. And then I was really, I was probably about 60 pounds heavier than I am now, so I was fat, and I didn't fit with those people, and it was so painful.
Right. Wasn't necessarily your tribe, if you will.
It was so not my tribe, and so that's why I shifted to editorial portraiture, and then that turned into kind of a problem.
Right.
Yeah, I'll tell you a little story about it. One of my first pro shoots I did, a guy named Chris Conley. He was in a band called Ministry and Pill.
Never heard
kind of
of
this acid metal stuff.
okay.
And this guy, he shows up to the photo shoot. He's an Irish dude with dreadlocks, the sweetest, most gentlest soul you've ever met in your whole life. And he's in this band that's like a band.
Total
but
contrast.
It's not who he was. I shot these 8x10 Polaroid soft portraits. I used to shoot with an 8x10 camera and a 4x5 camera.
Nice.
And all soft focus, romantic. And the magazine hated it. They rejected the images. They were like, oh my God, this is horrible. Huh. And when I did the photo shoot, he had a cassette. That's how old this was. He had a cassette in his pocket of the music he was working on. And I was like, oh, let me hear it because I want to hear who you are. And he's like, oh, no, this is total, like, no, you can't hear it. It's private. It's not out yet.
Wow.
Turns out he was doing a crooning album.
Oh.
And I totally nailed him. I got him exactly who he was. It's just no one knew that's who he was.
That's
and that's when I started to realize I had a problem with my vision versus what people wanted to present. Like I had him right. I totally had him right, but it wasn't what the market wanted.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Sometimes you have to do. Well, not sometimes, but you should do what your client is paying you for.
Well, we're a service industry.
Right.
That's all it's made. It may be creative, but there's a reason I think photographers do a lot of those editorial photo shoots where they get to actually pick their vision and they don't get paid bupkis for it.
Right.
And then they get hired for what I call the potato on a white seamless job.
Yep.
And that's where they make their money.
Yep.
So in the movie industry, the photographers they hire to shoot, X-Men and Marvel and all that, they're hiring them because they're really amazing creative ability. And you know what they have them shoot? They have them shoot an actor on a gray seamless with some lights.
Right.
It's bread and butter. So it's not creative at all. But they got the job because of the creative work they did.
Interesting.
Wow.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
And you got to be okay with that.
Now, see, so you went from that and you stumbled upon a finishing gig?
No, actually, and thank you for asking this question. So what happened was when I was in school, Photoshop was just starting. It didn't even have any layers. And I was doing montage work. My original photography was taking transparencies and cutting them up and sandwiching them together and making new prints.
Okay.
And so I was already a compositor, but just by hand.
Nice.
And then I really took to Photoshop. It was like breathing for me. And I was lucky enough when I got out of school to pay my student loans because I owed like $100,000 when I graduated school. Yeah, Christ. Yeah. I worked at a motion picture and film camera rental shop so that I get my equipment for free when I was doing my shoots and whatnot. And there was a finishing company that did movie posters right next door.
Yep.
And I kept walking by going, I want to do that. Oh, I want to do that. And that's how I got into it. I realized I was struggling with photography.
Now, if I've done my research right, you walk by that place every day on your way to work and you had the guts to say, hey, I want to do this. You walked up in there and said, hey, I want to do this. They gave you a shot just because you walked in and said, hey, I want to do this. They sort of laughed at you at first, like, oh, let's see how serious this young lady is. But that's pretty much how it went, right?
I did what I tell everyone to do this. I did what's called the informational interview. And what I mean by that, you go in, you're not asking for a job. You're going in and you're saying, look, I love what you do. I want to do what you do so badly. What would I need to know or demonstrate in order to work here? And so the guy I spoke to, Mark Armstrong, he still has a company now called AdWorks in Hollywood. And he said, great, you need to know how to mask and composite. And I said, awesome. So I went away. I came back 9 months later because I went and learned those things. And I said, hey, do you remember me? You said if I learned ABC, you'd give me a shot. And he told me that when I did, years later, because I did get the job, he said he felt obligated to give me a try because I took his advice and I'd gone in there. And so they gave me a tryout. I worked on Barbie dolls, like cleaning the Barbies, the dolls, like literally retouching up the seams of the prototypes. And I got hired. And that started it.
And there's one key thing, well, it's two key things here that I want to point out. First and foremost, you went in and you asked for the information. You were curious and you had a mindset of, I want to learn this, and if I want to do this particular job. Now, how can I do this particular job? What is it going to entail for me to be able to do that? So you just flat out asked, hey, what do I need to know?
Yeah.
Most people won't do that now. They just want to guess.
I think we think we're supposed to know.
Right.
Like either people think they're entitled, like, oh, you should just hire me.
Right.
Or they're afraid to say, hey, I don't know what to do. I'd like to do this. Can you help a brother out? Kind of thing.
Right. And then the next thing was you said 9 months.
Yep. Oh my God, nearly killed me. Can I tell you, I want to tell you what, if anyone knows the Los Angeles area, I had the job at the camera rental shop in Pasadena. I was living in Santa Monica, and I got a job at a video box rebranding company to learn Photoshop. Video boxes, that's how old I am.
Wow.
And
wow.
I went to all 3 of those.
At the same time?
At the same time.
3
so
jobs.
I worked 80-hour week. I mean, it nearly killed me. But it's what I needed to do because I had to pay my rent. And I needed to learn something. So it wasn't easy. It was hard as hell, and I worked for it.
But it paid off.
100% paid off. 100% paid off.
You had a bigger vision. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I was willing to be tired.
It's interesting how vision is, isn't it? And if you could see it, you could do it, kind of thing.
Now,
100%. Yeah, and you're just willing.
Yeah.
Now you do a lot of compositing, and compositing is not necessarily the same as retouching. I think it's pretty much totally different.
I would agree.
Now, can you explain to our new listeners, just the difference between compositing images versus retouching images? I do a lot of retouching when it comes to doing portraiture. I don't do a ton of compositing, even though I did do one recently as the mobile editing experiment that I was doing on Photoshop with iPad. But I don't do a lot of compositing. It's just not my thing. But because I don't have the type of brain that you have, Miss Lisa. I'm sorry.
Well, and also
you're pretty freaking creative.
Well, but it's also, that's how I tell stories. But it's always how I told stories, even back in traditional photo days. I was a compositor even back then.
Nice. See.
So let's talk about this a minute.
Yes.
Retouchers and other people have different points of view about this, but this is mine. Retouchers do enhancing and cleaning, and those kind of, I almost want to say flat manipulations, where you're not taking someone out of a scene and putting them in a new environment. That would be what compositing is. Compositing is taking disparate elements and putting them together. Disparate photos, putting, let's say I'm sitting here in my house and then you want to put me on a beach scene or in a studio or vice versa. That would be compositing. And it's a different skill set. 100%.
Totally different skill set. A lot of the TV and movie art that you do is compositing.
90% of it is, well, actually, I can't really say that either because a lot of it's retouching.
Right.
There's a retouching composite, like making someone like me look like they're 30. And which I'm not. And then there's the scene we shot in Lebanon or Beirut or in Tahiti.
Oh, right.
And my lighting, I was lit in a studio, and I need to match the studio lighting to look like it's an outdoor lighting, or put the helicopters in that were this big, tiny little helicopters, and the grain quality is different. That's compositing.
Yes. Now, how long have you been at this craft?
Well, I started when I was 5, so I've been doing it for 30 years.
30 years.
I'm lying when I said I was 5. I just don't want to admit how old I am.
Yeah. Oh, I get it. So, you are definitely a seasoned veteran. You clearly know what you're talking about when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah, been doing this a long, long time, and I love it. I still love it. It's a privilege to be able to do what I do.
So I have a question for you. In regards to the portraits that you work with, do you get to select those portraits that and another question then is that, do you get...
I should say no for those who don't get to see me shaking my head.
Yes, she said no. But do you get inspiration from the photographs that are been presented to you? And does that help you kind of create the posters to kind of...
No.
Or is it more so you going off of an assignment list?
Well, and let me explain my my particular job and my industry for a minute. So first of all, there's the design aspect of entertainment art, movie posters. Yeah. I don't do a lot of design work. I only do about 10 to 15% of design work. I'm what's called a finisher. Right. So other people actually do the design, and I redo it, hopefully really well and big, and make it look as good as possible. Now, why do I do that? Design work is so much more interesting and fun.
You think so?
Absolutely. And harder. 100%
it's
harder.
Definitely harder.
And it doesn't pay.
I make twice. You said.
I make twice the amount of money that a designer does on average as a finisher.
Interesting.
Right.
And I will tell you, do you remember I talked earlier about photography and me shooting people the way they want to be? shot versus how they feel to me.
Right.
When I do design work, I'm going to tell you a couple stories. There were two films I got to do design work on that I really enjoyed doing, but it was incredibly painful. One of them was, oh my God, I'm going to forget the name of the film, but it was the rebranding for the movie about the drummer and the guy who does the State Farm commercials is in it.
Right.
Whiplash.
Nice, John.
Whiplash. So that movie, if you've seen it, whoo, mama, it is dark and heavy. Great film.
Right.
I watched the film before I did the branding.
Oh, okay.
The rebranding.
That makes sense.
They wanted it to be, right? They wanted a lighthearted film that showed the love between this man and this boy.
What?
Which is not the film at all. So when you watch something and you get inspired, and I was really inspired after watching this film. I mean, I really dug it. And they wanted Kumbaya and Happy-Go-Lucky.
Oh.
Not the film. So another film that I got to work on in fact, my piece got to be the finish, which was cool, was Diary of a Teenage Girl. And it's shot, independent film, Sony Classic, I think. And it was shot 1970s color, and it's creepy as heck. Like the storyline is really uncomfortable. It's sex with older men and, it's creepy. Again, they wanted a Kumbaya film. They wanted this really healthy relationship vision, and they definitely wanted no 1970s color. The whole film is shot.
Wow.
70s. And what are you, nuts?
Wow.
So I find that process painful, and I don't enjoy it.
I wonder why.
Right. So that's why I'm a finisher. So when you talked about inspiration, I get inspired from the stories that I'm supposed to tell when I'm doing the design work. But unfortunately, in my industry, it's not often what they're asking for. So I leave it to braver souls than me.
And the collaboration, do you find inspiration from the collaborations then, too?
I don't get to collaborate. There is no collaboration. This is so fascinating. 100% separate. I don't get to meet the photographers to do the job. I don't get to talk to the photographers before they do the job. It's 100% separate. For me, at my stage in the process.
That's an interesting dynamic. I personally would like, if I were in your shoes, I personally would like to talk to the photographer and designer.
Hell yeah.
Just to get their feel. You know, because it seems like that could help influence the finishing process.
So let me explain to you a little bit how some entertainment art gets created. What will happen is a film will go into production, and the design agencies or advertising agencies will do sketch ideas about how they to market this film. Sometimes that is done while the film is being done. Sometimes it's done after the film's completed.
Okay.
And then the studios will pick concepts or ideas, multiple concepts or ideas. So let's say they pick eight different ideas, setups that they'd like to have done. Then an art director will go, creative director will go on a photo shoot with a photographer with these sketches. Sometimes they multi-vend to different entertainment ad agencies. So there might be 20 sketches that you have to produce photos for. And then those photos get taken to the ad agencies, and then they come up with completely different concepts that no one even did a photo for. And that's what that is, in a nutshell, that is my industry. I'm sorry. Yeah. So
if I had hair,
yeah, you'd have no. That's why I have hardly any hair also anymore. So it's really, I'm trying to think of a good word for it. It's detached. The entire process is detached.
Right.
I was going to try. I was trying to say compartmentalize.
Right? That's probably a good way to look at it. And there's so many chefs in the kitchen.
Wow.
And I guarantee you, 90% of the stuff you see is not the cool designs that were done. There are amazing pieces done, just absolutely stunning.
That gets thrown away.
Thrown away because it's too edgy, it's too different, it's unusual. And, you spend a gazillion $1 million on a movie, you want something safe. You want the three big heads in the sky with a little scene, because that's what people are used to seeing.
Holy moly.
Do you have a collection of past posters that were kind of left on the table that you...
Well, yeah. I mean, I put some stuff. I actually, because I do such little design work, again, because it doesn't pay and it breaks my heart.
Right.
I'll put that on my website.
Right.
So yeah, I do put stuff that I like on my site, and I've seen work by other people that is just so amazing. I mean, so inspiring.
Now, there's one more thing I want to touch on before we get out of here. Is I know that you spend a lot of time in Photoshop, but have you taken a look at spending a little more time in dimensions and doing a little more 3D?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
What are your thoughts on people trying to get into that workflow and get into that part of?
I think that it's really interesting. It's hard to talk about this in a general way because the industries that we work in are so different. Mm-hmm. So different. Mm-hmm. If you look at my personal work, like that grief series or the gratitude series I'm working on, I use a lot of 3D renders in that. Mm-hmm. Because I'm very interested in that. I'm interested in Cinema 4D. I love Adobe Dimensions. I'm awkward as heck in it still.
C4D is so, man, C4D is a monster.
It is a monster. And for my brain, it's hard. It's really hard, but I really am interested in that. So that's kind of my goal for 2020 is to work more in those environments. And I use an app called Pixel Squid.
Oh, yeah.
I love Pixel Squid. It's a 3D software generating system. You just so my grief series, I have this series I do with these little wooden articulated figures, and I have things like coffins in them and bird cages. I don't photograph those bird cages and mask them out. I go to Pixel Squid, pick an amazing antique looking bird cage, and I can turn it to any direction I want, and then I put it in my artwork. So those are the things I'm using in the meantime before I get a master class done.
So are you gonna exhibit your pieces that you are?
Yeah, I actually have already. I was in a show in New York City, in Manhattan. Nice. Really awesome. And now I'm working on some dimensional pieces in this series where I'm actually doing resin casting.
Mm-hmm. Oh man!
Because there are these articulated figures in water, because it was all about feeling like I was drowning and dying. Mm-hmm. And so I'm actually making these boxes where I'm actually putting the dolls in resin.
Oh yes.
Because I miss that tactile world also. So yes, I am working on exhibiting them. It's yeah.
Do you have a space yet for that? Or?
No, this is the next hard spot.
Okay.
This is a vulnerability issue about having to put myself out there and say, hi, I did some artwork.
So if there's anybody out there who's listening, there's a...
Yeah, look me up. Lisa at lisacarney.com. I'd love a space.
Great.
That's outstanding.
Yeah, and it's about stretching. You at the beginning of the show, we talked about, when you're doing work and you've got to stretch yourself and kick yourself in the butt to get going. This is the area I'm now stretching out.
Oh, that's so great. Very inspiring.
I've been following along with you for the last couple of years now. And I think when I really connected the most with you is I heard you on another podcast with our mutual friend, Dave Clayton and Glenn Dewis. And the conversation on there was just totally off the rails.
Yes. Yeah, the combination of us three is a little much for anybody.
Oh man, it was so funny, but it really helped me just to, to say, hey man, be you, because that's what you're doing. Yeah. You're Lisa Carney and you are being Lisa Carney every single day and just totally out here dominating the game. I totally.
Oh, thank you.
Just totally.
Well, I don't think we have a choice. If we make ourselves milquetoast and try to be like everyone else, we're ineffective.
Yes, exactly right.
I love it.
And I mean, it's interesting to do a lot of teaching, and my teaching style, oh my God, is not for everyone. Your listeners are not going to know this, because I'm pretty tame right now, but I'm hyper as hell. And I'm all over the map. But I have realized that there's a whole community of people like me out there. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we're not being serviced by your generic teaching style. There's people who, it may be a small percentage, but there's people like me out there.
It takes a long time to get out of the feeling of what others want phase, where you start speaking your truth. You start seeing what you were talking about seeing.
Amen.
How you learn how to see. And it takes a long time to get to that place. You have to, it's like an onion. You have to take off the...
And Michael, wouldn't you say that's where our superpower lies?
Yes.
I've actually realized that my superpower is my hyperness and my spazziness, because the folks who respond to me, I think, are the ones who need someone with energy. The other people put them to sleep. So they want someone like me.
It's so true. Right? It's so true. You do have to sort of find that right one for you. Yeah. Now, I know you've done a lot of different sessions with the folks at Adobe. If you look at the Adobe YouTube channel and just search for Miss Lisa Carney, you'll see a couple live sessions that she's done. Some fairly recent, as within the last couple months. There's one, I remember watching one of your Adobe Max sessions, And
yeah.
That was a lot of fun. I think you had to compete with our friend, Mr. Jason Levine, who was on the other side of the wall. Everywhere that man goes, it's like an entourage of noise and cheers following him everywhere he goes.
So I have to tell you, I have a little story about that one. It's on my website if you guys want to check it out. It's lisacarney.com, and it's under the, the Adobe Workshop section. And I am yelling. You can hear it. I'm yelling because there's some dude next to me screaming. But the other interesting story about that was Adobe Max last year. Mm-hmm. I had been bitten by what they think now was a brown recluse spider.
Oh, wow.
The night before.
Oh, man.
I was at the ER till 3 a.m.
Holy cow.
I was in incredible pain and had not slept at all that night. And my leg was just throbbing. And that whole Adobe Max, you could say, I've got this look in my eye where I'm just like sitting there going,
oh, man.
That guy's yelling, Jesus Christ. And so there's some comments on the YouTube where people are like, what's wrong with her? She got bit by a brown recluse spider and she was in pain. That was what was wrong with her.
Oh my goodness.
You probably don't look at
so
a
now
spider.
I have to look at that in a different light now.
You should. Look at my eyes, Aunt. It's got that wide eye like, look. Yeah.
You're making my palms sweat.
Oh man.
Yeah, you should see the scar I got. I've got a beautiful scar.
I actually got bit by never mind.
Jeez.
Yeah, all right. Yeah.
All right. Well, Miss
Sorry
Lisa,
about that little.
No, it's good.
This has been outstanding to sit here and pick your brain and hear these funny stories. I'll say for myself, you've been a huge inspiration in the creative space, and I really appreciate what you've done for people like me. Thank you so much for hopping in and joining us this week. Now, we can find you on your website, lisacarney.com, right?
Yep, absolutely.
And then Instagram is finishing_station, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So
it's a weird name, I know, finishing station, but I'm a finisher, and I have people who work with me, so we're the finishing station.
Okay.
It stops with us. Finisher.
I love it, and we'll link all of that in the show notes here. Now, also, I do want to mention you're very generous on your website. You have some brushes that you offer up for people for free for Photoshop. So hop over to her website. I've used some of her brushes. I actually used one set pretty recently because I like misty, foggy images.
That dust brush, right?
And she's got the dust brush. It's perfect for that. So hop on over to lisacarney.com and go over there and check out her free offerings there. Mr. Woolsey, is there anything you'd like to add before we head out?
Yeah, I'm so stoked. I am to have me. And I feel like you're a sister from another mother.
See?
Yeah, anybody likes to smell fish?
Also a weirdo?
No. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Another weirdo.
I should get stop bath perfume made. Wouldn't that be nice? And I can only attract photographers to me.
Anyways, really a great pleasure, and I love your work, and it's just so inspiring. And I feel like our conversation was very inspiring.
This was great.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
All right, folks. Well, that is going to do it for this week on Focus on Photography. This has just been another great conversation. Man, I'm so fortunate to be able to do this with my man Wools and people like Miss Lisa Carney. Tune in to us each and every Thursday, starting around 9 a.m. Pacific time, somewhere close to that. Just depends on if I've had my espresso or not. And you can watch us live as we record this on live.twit.tv. I think I got it right. Live.twit.tv. Yep, that's it. And each and every week we're going to do this. Now, we may have some scheduling changes here with the holidays coming up, so just stay tuned. We'll let you know what's going on with that, so on and so forth. So pick up your favorite podcatcher of choice, search for the show, Focus on Photography, hit that subscribe button, and then when you're done, hit the share button and tell other folks out there that like to listen to these conversations and be inspired and learn a couple things from behind the scenes and get out there and get creative, folks. Also, hop on the social medias, follow my man Wools, Hey Wools, on the Twitterverse as well as on Instagram, right?
Yeah, mainly on Instagram, but I'm learning.
Learning Twitter. I'm going to drag you into Twitter and all of its muck.
It's hard. Sorry.
And also, you can give me a follow at @Pruitt. I am @Pruitt on Twitter and on Instagram. I had to think about that, so I can't remember if they were linked up together. Follow Twit on Instagram, twit.tv on Instagram, as well as Twit on Twitter. If you follow on Instagram, you'll be able to catch the Instagram stories. As I said, it's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that our social media folks will share with you. Getting set up here in the studio, just random bits of me yelling at my computer because I sit in the host office and talk to myself all day, apparently.
There you go.
I have no trouble imagining this at all.
So be sure to follow us over there. All right, folks, until next time, get on out there, grab whatever creative tool that you have, start creating and dominating, and check back with us next week here on Focus on Photography. Take care.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.